Hello and welcome to What the Tech from Boast AI, where we talk with some of the brilliant minds behind new and exciting tech initiatives to learn what it takes to tackle technological uncertainty and eventually change the world. I'm Paul Davenport, Boast resident tech journalist, and today I am thrilled to welcome returning champion Daniel Shum back onto the show. For followers of the podcast, they'll recall that Daniel is a CTO for CTK Bio, who manufactures the most sustainable materials and products on Earth using upcycled plant waste. Made from 100% home compostable or 100% post-consumer recyclable materials, CTK's products are helping leading enterprises, including Cisco, Gordon Food Services, and Trimark, just to name a few, meet their ESG targets while staying sustainable, both environmentally and financially. So, along with revolutionary sustainability, Daniel and his team are also regularly embarking on groundbreaking R&D, and they work with the Boast team to ensure they're getting their innovation tax credits that they deserve for pushing the boundaries and building sustainable products with real-world impact. So excited to have Daniel back on the show and can't wait to pick his brain on what's next for CTK. So without further ado, welcome on, Daniel.
Appreciate it, Paul. Oh, good to see you again. Oh, it's been a minute. It's been a minute.
I know. I think we were talking before the show. It's been a minute. The podcast took a little bit of a break, and I am so happy that we're reconnecting with some of the folks who had joined us in the past. And you're our first returning guest, Daniel. So that just is emphasis on what a sterling appearance you made the first time and the great impression you made on the community. And again,
Oh,
how
yeah.
much
I'm so happy you invited me back. I mean, it was so much fun last time.
I love it. Yeah, and Daniel, it's fun having these conversations and also just kind of like the long tail too. I think a lot of people saw themselves in your scenario when you were talking about the innovation that you're running. So I want to hear what's changed since we talked. I think it was either late 2023, maybe, if not
Yeah.
2024. Time has lost all meaning this past year, but yeah, what's been going on? What has some of the biggest milestones or changes at CTK Bio since we last spoke?
I think, yeah, I mean, a lot has happened and difficult to kind of pinpoint. But I think one of the biggest milestones is over the last couple of years. We made a lot of progress onshoring manufacturing to North America. I'm not sure if I mentioned this in the past, but a lot of what we were doing before was making the resins and the pellets in-house here in Canada and then shipping it overseas to Korea, where they would make all the products and then ship that back to America. It's not because we wanted that, right? But because we had no options at that time. New materials, not a lot of converters, what we call who make end products, are were susceptible to new materials. They're hesitant, right? But because with our parent company and because of the relationships that we have with the manufacturing converters in Asia, we could leverage the relationship to have them convert for us. So that's what we were doing. But obviously, from a carbon footprint perspective and costs and it just didn't make sense. So we were working diligently in the last couple of years, just onshoring manufacturing. And this, we've achieved that, which is awesome. And this allows us to actually produce both materials as well as end products locally in Canada as well as in the United States. Um, and we're able to do this because we formed so many good strategic partnerships in North America to bring our products closer to the market and serve our customers. And this, allows us to tailor kind of the portfolio of sustainable materials to the client, depending on where they are located, whether that's 100% compostable materials or 100% recyclable, or even, recyclable with plant waste. I mean, all sorts.
I love that. And it so aligns with the mission that you guys have to accelerate the world's transition to sustainable products. You're bringing the actual miles that it takes closer to home so that you mentioned carbon footprint. You're not kind of diluting the impact that you're having because you have to take all of this reach and go and travel and bring these products back and forth. So it's more efficient, again, just in terms of sustainability and your carbon footprint and driving towards that environmentally friendly mission that's at the core of what CTK does. But it's also just cost effective and it's savvy and it's something that's good for business. And I love how you even said too, like you have a little more, not even control of the end products that you're able to deliver, but it's at arm's length. It's not having to reach and there's fewer hoops to jump through. So I imagine things are just speeding up a lot more for you guys.
Yeah, product to market is way faster, right? I mean, our Canadian converter is literally next door. So, they're within steps to make, a resin and then just walk over next door to make products. That is crazy. Um, but it did take some time to set up.
Oh yeah, doesn't happen overnight. I think we're all getting spoiled with the AI of it all, thinking that snap your fingers and these things are done. But when it comes to actually building things and material solutions and material products, it's still going to take some time. And I also love that you had mentioned too, like that network that you've built and how you've built those great relationships and those big partnerships. I mean, that's at the core of the love fest we were having at the top of this call because we love working with you guys. Tell me about how you built some of those partnerships and what those look like.
I mean, yeah, the strategic partnerships, I should say, within Canada and the US, um, and it's very similar to Boast. We all have similar views and values, and we all have kind of future goals. I met with one of the CEOs, and he's kind of semi-retired, and he's a grandfather now. And yeah, he said the same thing as what I believe in. Everything we do and all the money we make in this lifetime isn't even really for us, right? Might not even for my kids. It might be for, a few generations down the road. Um, so like, why not kind of join join ourselves together and kind of fight this battle together? And so I kind of we've been working on building kind of the entire ecosystem, I would call it. It's not just manufacture. It's everything. It's okay. The entire supply chain from waste to us making the materials to converting it into products to working with you guys on the R&D credit and the finance side. There's just kind of building this network of similar minds together and similar, to kind of strive towards the same goal.
I love that. Similar minds and similar values. I think that it's very easy to feel cynical looking around today. I forget if I told you last time, but I'm based here in the States. I have NPR in the background. I hear a lot of people talking about how all the values we thought we had a few years ago are going by the wayside. We're not necessarily focused on ESG. It just can be a little dark and stormy if you think that that's how everything is going. So again, to hear that you've built the entire ecosystem around the products that you guys build with people who share your values and also
Yeah.
who understand realistically like what's at stake here. We're building things for generations to come and also making sure that there's something to pass on to the next generation and the generation thereafter. I know we share that ethos at Boast. I know everybody that we work with deeply shares that ethos. And again, I love that you guys are able to talk to the people who have that mindset and have that framing because, yeah, it's what we need today. And again, it's what makes you guys so efficient and also just what sets you apart in the market. It's badass, honestly.
The other day, somebody asked me, they say, okay, well, your mission is to accelerate the world's transition to more sustainable materials. Like, what does that even mean to you? And I said to them, I want to be able to go into any store with my two little girls, and they're so proud because they see and know that that's daddy's X product, you know? And my kids already do that sometimes at different restaurant chains, and so it's pretty cool. And I wish to just kind of, broaden that.
And it's
Yeah.
it's having a material impact today. I listed some of
Yeah.
the companies that you're working with at the top there, and, like, again, across North America, those are brands that are recognizable in the States and Canada, and now I'm gonna be looking twice and be like, "Oh, wow, Daniel, my buddy from the podcast. He's the guy behind these." So
Yes, sir.
that's so cool. All right, now digging into the R&D and that
Yeah.
projects that you guys have been working on the past year, tell me about some of the cool innovations that you've drummed up, even some of the, like, technical challenges or any breakthroughs that you guys have had since we last chatted.
Yeah. I think there's two fronts. On the compounding side, we've been doing a lot of work with a specific type of hemp, as well as agave. So we're managing to be able to compound the hemp and the agave up to about 50% of some of these applications, which is really cool. At first we thought it was as simple as just throwing two ingredients together, and out it comes in the form of a product. But obviously, it wasn't that simple. There's a lot of work that needs to be done, marrying those two ingredients. And then even after that, it's like, okay, well, once these ingredients are married, can they still run on traditional infrastructure at the same rates as traditional plastics? Because if it can't, then that's all dollars, right? And at the end of the day, everyone wants to be sustainable, but it has to be sustainable to their bottom line. So with that in mind, we really have to kind of work backwards, right? And what that means is, one, what is the client willing to pay for a specific material or product, right? And then from there, help them define sustainability and work backwards on coming up with the material, the formulation, and make sure the price is right and all that good stuff. I think that's on the compounding side. And then on the synthesis side, I think the breakthrough was being able to synthesize, so making our own materials from plant waste. So instead of, because compounding, you're still buying and you're dependent on a lot of raw materials from, globally. And the long-term goal is not to be able to, not need to depend on them, right? So we started synthesis I think about 2 years ago. And we managed to achieve that on lab scale. And I think the next step right now, we're going through a raise. We're getting to that pilot scale. So that's the next milestone, I would say. To kind of add to that, and then the very long-term goal is to commercialize this, right, on a commercial scale, and then that way we have vertically integrated the entire supply chain. In Canada is the goal.
That is exciting. And as you know, I'm a note taker. I took so many cool points that I'm going to pull back and ask you about. I loved at the top, though, you mentioned something that immediately brought me back to our first conversation that I think is amazing and what makes your business a long-term success. You've got to be sustainable to their bottom line with the customers that you're working with. And again, working backwards to define what sustainability is to their mission, to your mission. Obviously, you want it to be aligned, but again, it has to make actual financial sense. So you're not pushing people to adopt things that are going to just be sustainable for the sake of sustainability. It's got to have an actual proposition and a marketability and something that you can actually improve what they're doing and be a better solution than maybe the non-sustainable off-the-shelf alternative. So love that you guys really focus on that to make sure it's a fit and checks every single box. It's not just a replacement. It's not a more expensive replacement. It is something that's going to get the job done and again, still be upcycling or recycling and getting everything out there. That's so
Yeah,
cool.
and this is where the ecosystem and the strategic partnerships really fall into place, right? Because once we've defined the term sustainability and we know what the tolerance of what the client's willing to pay, we work backwards, right? So we go back to, some of the material suppliers and say, hey, your materials need to be at this price if you want this contract at these volumes. Hey, end product manufacturers, your processing cost needs to be, again, at these numbers or at this cost in order to have this contract. And we just work it all out. And then we're very transparent with each other, what our margins are going to be, because I understand everybody needs to win. And we just all kind of come to an agreement. Sometimes, we only have, 5 to 10. Sometimes we have 20, 30 or 40, like it depends on projects, but we're very open and transparent with each other to make sure we get the client what they want.
Yeah, I this is gonna sound maybe cliche, but like transparency, performance, and trust. It's my personal ethos. I picked it up at a past job from a past CEO who was an amazing mentor, Matt Stevens. If you're listening, great to see you. But it's what we've more or less adopted here at Boast, and I think even without saying it, it's what you're exercising every day. And it's again, you're going to deliver on the performance, and you have the trust from your ecosystem that you're being transparent about what's getting done and that you're actually meeting those goals in a cost-effective way, which is so cool. So you're in the trenches of sustainability. What misconceptions do you think people still have about sustainable or biodegradable materials when you're going into these conversations and you're defining what sustainable is for those customers?
Yeah, I don't know if it's a misconception, but like the feeling that I get is no one really understands the term sustainability. I think there's a lot of levels, and I'm not saying I know better than others or anything, but it's just how I look at it is, again, there's no one size fits all. And I think for those who say there is, maybe needs to look at, the term sustainability in more multi-layer. Um, for us, it's like there's definitely two parts. If we try to simplify it, there's two parts. Are we looking at a reduction in carbon footprint, or are we looking at dealing with plastic waste? Um, yes, there are solutions that can tackle both, but expect to pay a high premium. So if you don't want to pay a premium, then if you had to choose, which route are you leaning towards? And then from there, again, working backwards on a material selection. Um, but I think just that concept alone isn't well thought of. And of course, how they define the terms, it all comes down to where they are in the world and how legislation is, right? So there's that piece as well. But again, we just try to walk the client through, give them as much data and facts as possible for them to make a judgment and a decision themselves on what that term is, how that term is defined. We try not to define that ourselves. Oh, do we have a preference? Yeah, absolutely. But again, that preference could be catered to where we are in the world. So very subjective.
Totally. Yeah, it's not one size fits all. It's extremely
Yeah.
subjective. And yeah, it does fall into like some defined buckets that people are probably familiar with, but you have
Mhm,
to
mhm.
slice and dice it. You can't just do things in broad strokes. I think the point about where you're based too, and just like the what is actually possible. I think,
Yeah.
yeah,
What is actually possible?
yeah, we'd love to build a world where everything is upcycled, everything's recycled, waste is being reduced, carbon footprint is being evaporated, but it's just simply not possible in some scenarios. So, how can we get the best case scenario for what is actually going to work from a business side and also just from those values
Yeah.
that we
I
hold
I
dear?
think there's one big misconception is a lot of the times people might think that a material is or is not sustainable.
Hmm.
But a lot of the times, what they don't understand, it has nothing to do with the material. It's more of the downstream, right? The downstream is based on your jurisdiction. Is there waste management services in place, right? Meaning transport of garbage or sorting of garbage. And then the second piece is the recycling facilities. Do they have the high technology infrastructure to be able to sort, clean, and upcycle back to the system? Like that part, I think, is almost more important than the material itself.
Now, Daniel, I'm looking around. Oh, yes. This never happened. I did some homework last time since we talked. Wasteland by Oliver Franklin Wallace. Um,
So,
Didn't even think I would have this at hand, so that worked out well. But when you had mentioned like recycling and sorting, we don't
yeah,
sort on recycling here in Boston. It's just not a thing. I was shocked when I was reading through this book about how in the UK he has all these different layers of sorting that he does before he puts his recycling in there, and just about like even like the plastic caps being different level of recyclability versus the actual container itself. Even just like the packaging on the pasta that I buy, how, oh, that would be totally recyclable, but we have to have that clear label because it's consumer preferences. And how can we just like dip into that? But to your point about just like reducing the waste on the one side and then even just carbon footprint on the other, there's so many parts of these conversations that need to come
yeah,
together to solve the whole problem. And unfortunately, we gotta take it on piecemeal, but it's even better than doing nothing. It's how we're gonna get there. It's just gotta
yeah.
take it on as it comes. So, just wanted
But
to shout out that I do read. Alright, so I would be missed if I didn't bring it back to funding and how you guys are funding
yeah,
all this innovation and working with our team. Like I said, just from a personality fit, Akia and everybody on our team is a huge fan of yours. I wanna know, tell me about what it's been like working with Boast, but so specifically, your experience with Shred and funding the innovation and tackling those innovation tax credits that the Boast team loves to help put in the arms of people who really deserve it, like you guys.
I mean, our partnership with Bose has been seamless since day one. Like, if anything, it's gotten better and better, right? More support, fluent process, short processing times, simple project outlines and whatnot. So I mean that part has just been great. But I think on top of the support that they give as Boast gives as a service, I think it's much more than that, right? I think it's I at least for me, I genuinely feel if I had more questions or if I had favors to ask outside of filing, that your team would do their best to kind of provide me with those contacts or introductions or whichever. And I think that's huge. Again, I feel like it's almost again a strategic partnership within the ecosystem that I can kind of fall back on if or when I need introductions or shred filings and whatnot. Just kind of one of the pillars out of many in the ecosystem. That's how I look at Boast. And then in terms of the shred program itself, it's just been a blessing in disguise because in the beginning when we started this venture, I mean, it's just by chance that JK and I are born and raised, or I'm at least, I'm born and raised in Vancouver, Canada. So to start a business or venture out here in Canada, we weren't confident, right? Canada is definitely not a place where you're like, yeah, that's where I'm going to start a huge manufacturing business. Um, so it was definitely rolling the dice. But the reason why we did that was because of the abundance of agricultural and plant waste, and then now to be able to have shred available in Canada is huge. I think without this, we wouldn't be able to get where we are at least as fast today.
That's music to my ears, Daniel. And it's recency bias. I was just doing a webinar with my buddy Josh, who is actually based in Montreal, and it was for a new provincial funding program over there. A little bit of a tangent, but it's a program that's being launched in 2026. And one of the key points is that there's so much gray area. We know baseline what the program's going to look like. We know the desired outcome of the program, but there's not a lot of information to fill in the gray middle unless you're working with somebody like Boast, who is very involved. And this isn't our first rodeo. And again, we're working with the teams. So we know the outcomes, what to expect, but we're working with the people who are like the best in their field for capturing the funding that they deserve, for structuring their R&D in a way that's going to maximize their access to the funding that they need. And in lieu of there being resources maybe at the government level, we're a resource and we're elbow to elbow with our partners. And again, I know we've met you guys in person. We've worked with you guys. We've seen you guys grow, and it's been rewarding because we're learning from you as you guys learn from us. We are the tax wonks. You guys are doing the really cool stuff and teaching us the art of what's possible, honestly. And it's making it great. We love working on these claims because it's always something new, and we're all nerds here on all fronts, not just the tax side, we're techies too.
Yeah.
So love to hear that. We're a part of
I
that
mean, Paul,
ecosystem.
remember we started back in, I don't know, it was like 2017, 2018 with like nothing.
Yeah.
With just an idea. JK and I don't even come from a chemistry or an engineering background. It's a couple of guys with some big dreams.
All right, Daniel, knowing we're almost at time, I'd love to know what's next on the horizon for CTK Bio. Like you were saying, 2017, you guys had a seed of an idea. 2025, you're working with major enterprises and you're actually seeing the end products out in the world. What's up next?
I think the next step, again, really, we're going through the race right now to to get into that pilot scale for cellular synthesis. Um, I would say that is the next step. Hopefully, we'll get that done within the next 12 to 24 months, and then basically get into that commercial scale. But I think it's important that we're able to make our own materials um, from waste so that we can be as close and comparable to traditional plastic as possible. Um, and then that just kind of opens the doors up and I'll have to be dependent from suppliers overseas and whatnot. So I would say, yeah, that's a huge focus. Next step.
That's incredible. And I have no doubt that you guys are going to get there too. You've moved mountains since you guys had that idea. So this is fantastic. And again, Boast is happy to be on your team. I'm personally so happy that I've got to continue this conversation. Can't wait to talk again. Hopefully it won't be a year before we talk again, but you'll definitely be back on the show so I can check in on the cellulose synthesis and how that's
Absolutely,
going.
absolutely.
I love it. Well, Daniel, this was a total pleasure. I can't thank you enough for joining me.
Likewise, love the combos, Paul. Anytime.